starting off, Auburn versus A&M. I've got the Aggies. I think that they kind of owe Auburn one. This should be – the last year was a great game, went in overtime. Probably be another good game again. I think the Aggies have a little bit too much of a diverse offense for Auburn, although they probably won't score as many points as they did in the last game that they played. But I do think I'm taking the Aggies in this one. Craig, who you got?
I'm taking Texas A&M. I mean, it's a Kyle Field for one. I think Auburn's been in a bunch of close fights here recently and proven that they're a pretty good football team, but I just don't think that they're on the level quite of A&M and good enough to also overcome home cooking as well with that Aggie crowd. So, yeah, give me the dynamic offense with Marcel Reed and all his fun new wide receiver toys. I do think they'll probably have a bit of a tough time running the football because Auburn's just good about defending that, but I do think they'll be able to find some plays in the passing game with Reed's legs as well. And then I think offensively, Auburn's kind of a one-trick pony in some cases, like with the Jackson Arnold sort of being a statue in the pocket / runner more than he is much of a passer. They can hit shots and whatnot, and they'll probably hit a couple shots in this game, but I like the Aggies defense versus Auburn's offense to be able to hold up pretty well.
One of the things I thought about, first of all, I think I would have taken A&M anyway after what I saw with their offense against Notre Dame. But Auburn played last week, and they had a knockdown, drag-out, emotional loss on the road. A&M didn't play, right? They had an off week, so they had a chance to breathe after that emotional win on the road against Notre Dame in South Bend. I tell you what, one of the things about A&M recently is that at times they had a pretty good defense, but they were so boring on offense with Jimbo not being able to get things done, the quarterback changes. This looks like, I don't know, a guy could go down or two, but they look very good on offense, very dynamic on offense, and just good enough in the run game. And so I'll take Texas A&M.
Yeah, they're deep at all the offensive skill positions, and that's good. TCU on the road at Arizona State. Look, I didn't think I would see the Sun Devils sitting at potentially 2 losses at this point in the season. I just like what I've seen from TCU a little bit more than I've seen from Arizona State. I know it's on the road. I just really like what TCU's got going on right now. They're that team that might, be the one that comes out of nowhere, which they've already done in the past to show out in the Big 12. So I'm going Horned Frogs. Even though it's in Tempe, I think it'll be a fantastic game. You've got 2 great quarterbacks in this game. I think TCU, though, has more weapons than Arizona State this year. Craig?
I'm taking TCU. I waffled on this game, and had we waited a day, I might be picking Arizona State. It's kind of like that sort of game to me, like Utah and Texas Tech was last week, where my initial pick was wrong and my pick by Friday was right. And I think this might be the case here, but we picking today, so today I'm going with TCU, and I'll either double down or let you know on about Friday if I'm feeling the same way. It does give me some pause that they're on the road here, but that was a big emotional win for Arizona State last week. Now, maybe that's something that propels them, but I just haven't been blown away by a team that everybody's like, yeah, put them right back on top of the Big 12 rankings heading into this year. I think it became apparent very quick that they're not just right back to being the best team in the league just because they won it last year. But I do think they're a very good team, and that was a very important win against Baylor. I do think this will be a great matchup of just individual talents and fun quarterback wide receiver combinations. I mean, you saw what Eric McAllister and Josh Hoover did together last week, and Levin and Tyson are like that every week sort of a combination of guys. So I expect to see a bunch of big explosive plays in this game. I'm not sold on TCU's defense. The reason I don't put them quite on like the Texas Tech or even maybe an Iowa State level is I don't know that they're just as balanced just yet. But I do like their explosiveness, and I love their quarterback. And I'm rolling with the road team to go into Tempe and get a win here.
All right. 2 years ago, Arizona State. Now, I know Dillingham is new and did what he did. That team was fantastic to watch. They were 2-6 at home in 2023. 2-6 at home in 2023. Last year, they didn't lose a home game. They lost at Tech and also Cincinnati, and then eventually lost to Texas. But I did not look at the odds. I try not to do that. And I was surprised when I did. That says Arizona State is a 2.5 to 3 point favorite. Started out as a 1.5 point favorite. But I'm sticking with what I said earlier this week before I looked at that. And I'm going to say TCU, I just like where they are right now. And I think they were pushed by SMU, and I think that might get them into a nice little groove.
Well, I mean, TCU's had trouble running the football. That's a concern. And then Kavorian Barnes is out as well. So they're going to have to continue to just throw it around. I do think Arizona State's been susceptible to that. So that plays into their favor. But, yeah, if they're not having much success in the pass game, then it could get kind of plotting there for TCU potentially. Love CJ Fight and what he's doing for Arizona State.
Absolutely.
Really think a lot of Texas programs missed the mark on keeping him in the Lone Star State, but it was a great pickup for Kenny Dillingham. And, yeah, two terrific quarterback and wide receiver combinations in this game, as I said a few moments ago. So I don't think it's surprising that Arizona State's favored at home by 3 or 4 points. I don't think TCU's done anything that just blow your doors off and say like, oh yeah, they're clearly going to go on the road and beat Arizona State. I think they're pretty evenly matched teams that it's more often than not, if these two teams played 10 times, I think it'd be a coin flip about who won the most games, because I don't think there's much that separates them pound for pound.
No, not at all. Next up, let's go to the SEC. Alabama at Georgia. I picked the dogs in this one. I think this is going to be a shootout. Both offenses have a lot of weapons. After the first week, Alabama's found themselves. I just think Georgia's a little bit better right now than Bama, and it's between the hedges. So I'll go with the dogs. Craig?
Alabama's looked really good of late since the debacle to start the year, but give me Georgia between the hedges at home. I was really impressed by their moxie in that Tennessee game and just how they stood in the fight and then landed the big blows there at the end. That was very impressive. They're not a team that jumps off to me, even though they have named guys, especially if you follow recruiting, but it just doesn't feel like we're talking about individual Georgia players maybe as much as we are with some other programs, right? But they're just a damn good team. And, I think that the Gunnar Stockton-Ty Simpson matchup will be really intriguing because both are very promising, but not like surefire, like no doubt quarterbacks at this point in their careers. But yeah, give me Georgia at home. This ought to be a slugfest, explosive. And I just feel like much like they did against Tennessee, the dogs will find a way to win at the end.
Alabama. Now I know Kirby Smart started turning Georgia around. What was it like 4 or 5 years ago when they started winning national titles, but they were knocking on the door. Alabama has beaten Georgia 9 of the last 11 games. In fact, actually, it might be 1-7, 9 of the last 10. The only time they lost was in the championship game, the national championship game. But I still think Georgia has been slowly getting better. They had the shootout last year, and so I'm going to take Georgia.
Yeah, one thing about that stat, it's very legit. Who was the head coach for Alabama during all these games?
It was Brian DeBose or whatever. No, Mike. I know that. No, that's why. But that's one of those things. Sometimes it's the coach or not. But yeah, there was a guy named Saban trolling the sidelines, roaming the sidelines. He might have been trolling them too.
I think when we're talking about trends for Alabama in particular, there's very much a pre and post on those trends, and that. Yes, there are things that Alabama can carry over and still win 10 games and be in the playoff every year and all of that. But there were a lot of marks that were set for a time period there over a couple decades that are very specific to a guy who was the head coach there.
What's weird is Saban arrived at Alabama, what, in 07 or so, what year it was? They lost. Then he won 7 in a row, lost that championship game in 2021, and then won the last 2. So it's weird. Those two teams don't play each other very often, even though they're right in the middle of it, been in the conference together for a long, long time. Until 2000 and, they went 7 years without playing from 95 to 2002. And, of course, Georgia and Alabama very rarely have too many ups and downs, but I would have thought they would have played more than that.
Yeah, this ought to be a hell of a game. It's a heavyweight fight, both with a lot to prove, I think, and both will take a massive step forward in the playoff. I do think that Georgia has some concerns going into this game that you definitely have to be on upset watch, not just the name Alabama, but specific concerns about your defense, for example, and knowing that the talent that Alabama is going to bring in there, they're going to have to play really sharp. Or, there's a great certainty that it would not be a shock for Alabama to roll, no pun intended, into Athens and win this game.
Yeah, especially after last year, because remember, they were a little bit shaky early, and then this was a great game. They had a huge lead, and I'm like, what in the world? Georgia came back and then Alabama won it at the end.
Yeah.
One note real quick. Go ahead. I'll put this up later. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's get into the Big Ten. Oregon at Penn State. It's a whiteout.
Looks like it snows when they do that.
Yeah,
at Penn State.
it's a really cool thing that they do. And I probably should have taken Penn State here. I'm just not a believer yet until I see it. Until I see them win one of these big games. Oregon's super athletic. These teams are very evenly matched. Jim Knowles, now the DC there at Penn State. I think you're going to see a ton of different looks than you've seen from them before. I'm leaning towards landing here over Penn State. So I'm going to say the Ducks. This is the one I feel the least good about of all my picks this week.
I'm going the Ducks as well, and it doesn't feel right to be picking them walking into the snowstorm they're going to be walking into, but just went with the hunch here. I love what Dante Moore's done. Not as experienced, obviously, as Drew Aller, and I don't know if that plays into this game at all, given just the heat of enemy territory that you're rolling into, but there's a lot to like about what we've seen from Oregon, just how explosive, efficient, and just all-around talented they are. Maybe don't have as much depth in some places as you would like, so health – if suddenly there's a couple injuries that could kind of change the trajectory of this game. So hopefully everybody's as fully healthy as possible. But there's a lot to like about both squads. Penn State is a choice that I totally understand, but I just have a hunch with Oregon that they're going to be able to go in there and not blow out Penn State by any means. I just think they're going to find a way to win. I'm not fully sold on Penn State just yet. As far as I know, that probably sounds weird. Maybe I shouldn't phrase it that way. They are a very, very good team. They're not a no doubter to me, and so I'm rolling with Oregon.
Do you know that they had up until last year, Oregon? Remember, they ended up winning the Big Ten championship with that game. They hadn't played in 30 years because they different conferences, but there was a '94 Rose Bowl when Penn State won the game, but then did not win the national title. Nebraska got the nod. They've only played 5 times in their history, which is not a surprise, coast to coast and not in the same conference, but I would have thought they would have played a couple other times, at least in a bowl game or two. Here's what I think of. I close my eyes, I see Oregon with speed everywhere. I close my eyes with Penn State, which is not fair, and I see those black cleats, and it makes them look like they're not as fast. But I like what they've done. I like the way they've gotten a little bit better. I am worried about Franklin in big games. But last year, I thought they really did have a nice run, and I think they're ready to carry it over. I'm going to take Penn State here because the game's in front of 100-some thousand at home, and I just think that might give them just enough of an edge in this one.
All right, last one. LSU at Ole Miss. Garrett is decked out in LSU garb today. I picked the Tigers here because they've got the better defense, but I'm gonna pick the Tigers. I think that Trinidad Chambliss is gonna be fun to watch. He has not seen a defense like this yet. I don't think. And to give credit to Brian Kelly a little bit, sometimes your offense and defense aren't going to really match each other as far as LSU's defense is so far ahead of what it's been. The offense might have regressed a little bit. I think the offense will actually eventually get there and start scoring some more points, maybe even this week, because Ole Miss's defense is good, not great. But I'm taking LSU because they can make stops whenever they kind of want to. So that's why I'm going with the Tigers here.
I thought Garrett said that their defense sucked.
Not this year.
All right.
Yeah, this year they're better, but I think Ole Miss is still plenty explosive offensively. And Trinidad Chambliss, there's not been much, if any, drop off there. I'm going Ole Miss. I'm going a hot team at home. I think the Chambliss has been good enough to feel like you're not having this massive change in the lineup, whereas if it was Austin Simmons and you're 7-10 points better type of a thing, I think, like we said a little while ago, that Ole Miss probably has one of the better quarterbacks room situations in the country. So yeah, give me the hot-handed Chambliss. LSU's a very good team, but road atmosphere factors into this one for me, and I think that LSU's offense has been very up and down. I think that for all the talk about Nussmeier, last week he was very efficient, but he's kind of been good against bad teams and sort of average against good teams. So that plays into my decision as well. Can LSU get the run game going? Like I I just think, home field kind of tips the scales in Ole Miss's favor for me right now, and they just look like a more complete team when I've watched them.
Man, they do score a ton. And these two, LSU has dominated this series over the years. 65 wins, 38 losses, 3 ties. They won last year. I have them winning. And honestly, I really I've watched Trinidad Chambliss and, of course, the Ferris State story and all that and what he's done. But I still think, okay, you have Nussmeier and Chambliss. And if I'm wrong, good for Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. But I struggled with this one more than any game. And I know Oregon, Penn State was tough for me. I just said, no, LSU's been tested already twice. And so I'm going to take the Tigers at Ole Miss. And do you know over the last 5 years, Ole Miss has won 30 games at home and LSU's won 29. So it's not like they haven't been successful. They've been really good too.
Yeah. So 2 of us are friends with Garrett this week and 1 of us isn't. So
yeah, I like fighting with him.
It's fine. Well, you're friends. We're friends this week. The 3 of us and Ian and Craig are at odds.
I like fighting with him. I'm changing my pick.
No, I can't. Once there's a graphic, you can't change it. That's the law. Here's the records. I am woefully behind at 9 and 11 this year. That first week. In the second, actually, it's not the first week that killed me because Smokey's gained ground and now tied with Craig. It's the second week that really killed me that I haven't been able to. But I just got to keep picking what I'm picking and hopefully getting them right and not chopping wood away.
Keep chopping wood. There you go. Right, it's part of the process, as Matt Rowe always says.
13 and 7 over there on that side of the studio. 9 and 11 over here.